Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast. To join a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice, head to xyadvisor.com. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Hub24. Hub24 make a difference in the lives of advisors by connecting you to innovative solutions that create opportunities with market-leading managed portfolios and customer service excellence. Want to know more? Visit hub24.com.au. G'day, Clayton here from XY, speaking with Damien, the CEO of AIA. Mate, thanks for coming on.
No worries, Clayton. Great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Now, we're both we're distant, we're separated by time and space, but we are over here Zoom, and we're both casually hanging out in our T-shirts. Yes. I'm proudly representing XY. You've got the AIA vitality happening there. I love it. And we were just chatting about this very briefly before the podcast started, and that is leadership these days is very I'm sort of commenting from an outsider here, but the people that I get to speak to that are well respected and well established and lead a lot of people, but they're also and I can't tell if it's COVID that's even brought this on more, but I feel like the approachability of leaders is being turned up a lot. And Roxy, who's our chairman, he's spoken very, very favorably about you for a long time, and he's been sort of trying to organize this podcast. So it's great to finally get here. But the first thing that captures my attention when I get to catch up with you is that you look as relaxed as I am, but you lead this massive organization. So I've got to find out how all this happens.
All right, well, let me try and give you a response to that question. It's a great question. And firstly, also, a big shout out to Roxy. He's a superstar legend, big heart and full of energy and passion. It's hard not to be inspired by him and motivated when he's around. But look, and also great to talk to you and well done on having the success you've had with the podcast. I think, as I said to you just before, you've been doing it since 2016, so you guys were right at the front of the way there. But and the innovation and trend, but also right now during COVID, people have been looking to connect more, and it just helps to be able to have great podcasts like this one where people can, if they choose to, tune in and hear what's happening for others and take a time to connect with others and hear what they're doing. It's a great opportunity. So well done. But mate, it's a great question. I think, yes. The first answer is yes. When you said, has COVID changed that? COVID's accelerated it, in my view. And what that it's done is really given permission for people to, or not just given permission, demanded that leaders, actually show a level of care. Because, right now in this situation, while I can have the best business plan about how we're going to ensure that our people are well and safe and engaged and productive, so that we can have a business continuity plan, so that we can then continue to operate the essential services, and we can, then reimagine and thrive into the future. The first thing we're going to do is make sure we're connecting to the emotion of what people are feeling. I mean, it's not too often you go through a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing you've got to do is go, all those things are fantastic, but the first thing we need to do is help people deal with what they're really trying to do, which is survive.
Yeah.
And connect to the emotion of it. So how do we survive? And then let's try and revive things together in this environment. And then we'll think about thriving into the future and reimagining how we're going to come forward to life, not back to life, which is an important thing I'll touch on. So I think it has accelerated that. But the other thing that's happened, Clayton, is this has been something that's been bubbling away. And that's because, again, you step back and go, well, what is that? Well, I think it's, a couple of things, and I'll give you an analogy. One, when we talk about globalization and digital and technology and social media and podcasts, all of a sudden, leaders cannot just sort of hide behind the four walls. I call it the ivory tower that they sit in and lock themselves away and, have a communication that is well crafted and sent out after it's had lots of editing and messaging done to make sure it's appropriate. What the world's now done, as you can see, is that it's brought everyone into the open, and people are expecting that leaders are going to communicate and more regularly and more openly and take a stance on important issues, where in the past it was difficult to get that communication exchange happening, but now we're far more accessible, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's through podcasts. So that's demanding, a level of transparency and openness and an expectation that Australians and others around the world, depending on where you live, are asking of organisations and their leaders to understand who and what are you about. And, the last bit I'll leave you with, Clay, because it's a bit of a favourite topic of mine, what you've opened up there, is, I was watching, as I've shared many times, I think of corporate financial services in Australia, and, you're right, I'm very privileged to lead an amazing group of people across Australia and New Zealand. We're about 3,000 strong, and we insure over 3.5 million Aussies and Kiwis. But corporate financial services in Australia, I make the correlation to the Wizard of Oz and the Tin Man. All right, and I'll tell you, Tin Woman. It's not about gender in any way. This is about, the Tin Man. When I was watching this show with my kids over the school holidays and just reliving it, what a message, right? This is how I correlate it, because we've always operated from our head, and it was always about how you looked and how you were perceived and what the numbers said and who was the most intelligent in the room and bigger is better. But actually, we've always had a heart, just like the Tin Man did. All we've been looking for is the permission to use that. And now what we're seeing is the power of the head and the heart coming together, and that's what people want.
Wow, that is a great answer. So basically, COVID has accelerated something that's been happening for a long time, and that is the idea that good leadership is not just academic. That doesn't go away, and you have to hit all your numbers, and you have to make sure the strategy is all correct, and you have to make sure that the continuity of the business is all there. But is there a way that we can bring in a more human side of all working together? And it's almost like this large pandemic has brought that out. That actually mirrors financial advice. So I was on Matt Heine's podcast recently, and we were talking about how ticket to the game and being a financial planner is making sure you can do all the financial stuff. You've got to be the best at your job, and you've got to always get better at the finances and abilities to calculate and everything to do with a dollar sign. But there is the element of personal well-being and what do you want out of life, and there's this whole other softer side of what financial advice is, and it hasn't removed any of the previous expectations of what it means to be a good financial planner, but now it's just we're including more in that service, and not everyone is, and some people are well and truly out on the fringe on what they provide, but I would say as a movement collectively, it is slowly moving across to more and more. It's almost emotionally engaging financial advice. And so so it's quite kind of interesting to hear that mirrored in the corporate setting of the products that financial planners use.
Yeah. And look, it's exactly the same in the sense that, you need both the head and the heart, but you also need to know the what and the why. Right? And the words and the actions, they're my pretty simple things. That's how you get congruence and, that things come to life and become very powerful, right? There's not one or the other. You need both. And that's where the magic happens, I call it. And so financial advisors, mate, I'm a massive advocate because but what you're talking about is, and what has been really disappointing is that a lot of the external focus has been on, well, what are you doing and what are you doing? How are you doing that? But what you're talking about is connecting it to, yes, what you need is you need your life insurance and you need to put some money into investments and your superannuation and other things. But why? Right? Let's think about why together you're doing that. It's because you've got a dream. What's that dream? What are you trying to, what is the best life you want to have and for you and your family? And we've got to protect them for the rainy day, but why are we doing that? And so financial advisors and financial advice goes well beyond which investment option you should take, which life insurance product should you, adopt. It's really about, as I, a little bit like what with Vitality, our health and wellbeing program. This is about yes, there's a product or an investment or a fund superannuation fund or a fund we need to be in, but actually how do we help you once we've selected that, make sure you're getting the absolute, they're in the best health status so you can enjoy it and staying on track with your goals in life, because that's actually just a subset of, having your best life.
Yeah, the thing that it's always interested me about the concept of the Vitality program is actually I was doing a little bit of research before our podcast, and I didn't realize, but you actually took the head job the same year that Vitality came on. Is that right?
Yes. I was very fortunate to get the opportunity to take over as Chief Entertainment Officer, as they call it, or CEO. At the same time, we brought Vitality, but really Peter Crew, who was CEO, phenomenal individual, leader guy, mate, that helped prepare me to take the next step as much as you can be prepared. And he really supported me to help bring Vitality to life, and he was like, "We've got to do it." So let's do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because it's essentially gamified health, right? So the concept is, how do we, yes, the insurance product is there, but then how do we get people to, and it is a motivation thing, right? It is a why thing, because even though I know looking after myself objectively is going to make my life better, it's for whatever reason, there's emotional inputs that just help or almost persuade me to do something or remove my desire to do it. And a perfect example of this was my wife for my 37th birthday, and I've just had a kid. And so Vera goes, well,
congrats.
Thank you. To starve off the dad bod, now that you're a dad, here's, a 10-pack for CrossFit. And so I'm back into it now, right? And I've got a long way to go, but I'm just permanently sore at the moment. But now that I have that motivation, right? So I've gone there, that the hurdle of going the first time is now done. And I can feel myself slowly getting back into shape. And it's almost the gamification in this case was my wife just giving me a 10-pack and saying, this is it. You're now getting started. The thing with Vitality is it's kind of gamified it in a way that, it's tech-based and it can be delivered at scale. And one of the reasons that we wanted to catch up today was how much health and wellness has influenced your life. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you came on the same time as Vitality, was that a fortuitous coincidence, or was that actually a part of the reason that you were given this job?
No, actually it was, we were on the journey already, and I've been in superannuation and life insurance my whole career. Like you and others, at 6 years old, I said, yeah, that's my dream. I don't want to be an AFL footballer. No, I want to be in life insurance. But what happened was, fortuitously, our group CEO at the time, by a phenomenal individual by the name of Mark Tucker, introduced to AIA Group another business that he knew very well, Vitality, which was founded in South Africa by Adrian Gore and a number of other very special people at Discovery, a company in South Africa. And he said, this is a phenomenal program to really think about, how we can make a difference in society. And having been in life and superannuation and financial services in Australia, the one thing or two things that really used to get me was that I used to sit back and think, wow, what an important role we play in people's and their families' lives. And we're there for people when it matters most, when something goes wrong or when they finally retire and they can have this, retirement savings. And that's admirable. But actually, how about making sure during that, the 40 years of working to get to that, or before something bad happens, what if we could help people make small changes to live the dream of a healthier, longer, better life, which is truly, I believe, the dream in Australia, right? In New Zealand, in this blessed country of ours. And the other bit that was missing was engagement with this thing called a product, right? This grudge thing you sort of bought and had to pay for every year and hope you never had to claim on.
Yep.
And I just saw this phenomenal opportunity to bring, well, great. How great if we can do like what we talked about with financial advisors, help you get the right advice to put the right plan in place, but then help you lead your best life and little steps. And so vitality is really, you talk about, it does gamify health, but the other way to look at it is it's a behavioral economics model, and it brings together three elements of any successful change. Okay, education. So the first thing is knowing about your health, right? Yep. Because once you have knowledge, and that's what they say, knowledge is the key to everything, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean just because you know something, it may create that knowledge now, that little seed, but it doesn't mean you're going to do something with it necessarily, although there's a good chance once you have that knowledge. Yep. But then the second part is recognizing that if we want true behavior change and to get people moving, we then want to move into helping people to improve their health and remove the barriers that really do exist. So I've got the knowledge, but there's some barriers. And then the third part is, so know your health, improve your health, or education and knowledge, removing barriers or putting them down. And the third one then is, even if we start something, to your point, staying on the journey is not easy. So we need that nudge and that reward. So we're rewarding your health. And that's where the incentivization comes in. And it's about making sure we're constantly, recognizing that life goes on and how do we keep people motivated and incentivized. And so the three elements come together, Clayton, and that's the cool part. So you got what's called the nudge, right? The nudge theory. Right today, here's the 10 fact in. Yeah. You weren't going to necessarily go out and necessarily buy it for yourself, not because of anything, just because life's busy, right?
Totally.
And so that's what the program looks to do. And what's great is we've gone from having a relationship once a year with a premium renewal notice that usually says thanks for your business and your premiums are going up, to on average 20 to 30 touch points a month with our Vitality customers. And look at the success. Over 140 billion steps, 3 million gym visits, 900,000 health and wellbeing assessments have been completed. I'm just rattling off some stats. People have improved their vitality age, which is their lifestyle age, by on average over 12 months across the cohort. So it's having impact. But we encourage people. People have been meditating more, getting an extra hour of sleep because they get their points. It's been cool, to have that sort of impact. And I guess, for me, it's about financial well-being. That's what we're looking for. Yeah. How do we bring the two together?
Yeah. Insurance, even as a topic, is such an interesting concept, because while it is a reluctant or a grudge purchase, it at the same time, the way that I always view it was, you pay 30, 40, whatever percent, tax on your income, and what do you get for it? But is it worth paying a couple of percent to make sure that if all goes wrong, that there's a way to, for it not all to go wrong? Even though, it's one of those things that I don't want my family to walk out the front door unless they have it, because how's this? So a mate of mine who's my age, we're 37, he was out riding motorbikes and he had a stroke. And this was just about a month ago. Had a stroke while riding a motorcycle and crashed his motorcycle because of the stroke. And they say to him, you might not work for 5 years. Right. And just over the course of our relationship, I've told him, I don't know, 10 or 20 times that story of, it can be as grudge worthy as you like, but I wouldn't want to walk out the front door without my family having it. Unfortunately, he never did. And now this concept that he might not be able to work for 5 years has been dropped on him. And this is a very good mate of mine who's my age, and he's had this unbelievable medical condition. And it's just one of those things that it's so mandatory. I mean, it's mandatory across every part of life. It's not just life, right? It's public liability, and it's insurance is just one of those things that no matter what your view of it is, it's crazy to risk everything.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, and that's why I was saying to you, it really is a conundrum for me in terms of trying to understand like the behavioural economics here, because we won't drive a car out of a car yard without a cover note, right? Yeah. We won't, buy a house without making sure it's got content and building insurance. But the most important asset we have, our income or our life, is not an asset, but our income, we don't insure, and that's what pays for all those things, right? But this goes to show, I think, what I put that down to, and insuring our life. I think there's sort of some deep things behind that. One is it shows the deep disconnect, not between financial advisors and their clients, because financial advisors help their clients to know why they need it and get it and trust that they're getting the right one, right? But the disconnect between life insurers and the end sort of perception with Australians around, oh mate, it's just something we're going to pay for, and we'll never get paid. We won't be able to claim it. There'll be something. When as you know, the stats, we've seen it, right?
If anything, it's the other way around. The amount of claims have been such that, and I know I actually did a podcast, a mental health podcast series, and the amount of claims have actually outstripped the premiums of recent years.
Absolutely. And, that's the thing to remember. Unfortunately, unfortunately, but the reality is that things like cancer, heart disease, mental health doesn't discriminate by age.
Yeah.
Yes, there may be some, 25% of claims we paid for TPD under the age of 25 were for mental health.
Holy dooly.
Yeah. So, and not that this is specifically about a drill down into mental health, because I'm very passionate about it too, mate, and standing up for making sure we're doing what we can to learn more, do more, help more here. But that's the largest cause of disability globally is for mental health, right? So the trends are not positive. But then again, so that's not to, as you said, things can happen. So it's not about doom and gloom. It's about saying, right, we can't predict life, but let's make sure we've got the right things that are in place as best we can and get some advice and help if needed to do so.
Yep.
And then let's try and do the little things within our control to try and prevent and give ourselves the best. And it's it could be making sure we're drinking a little bit more water, getting a little bit of sleep. And I've shared very personally, Clayton, I was not healthy. I was training every day like a madman, wearing the big badge of honor that I was, my fitness levels were 92 out of 100. But guess what the other two measures were when I ran into Dr. Jamie Lee who's the CEO of Health Quotient. So yes, there's a third Q, not just IQ, EQ, there's HQ, Health Quotient. And this really helped me. My stress recovery, right, which measured how much time I was having to recover from the stress I'd have during the day, was 36 out of 100, and my restorative sleep was 6 out of 100, because I was averaging about 4 hours sleep at night, 5 hours, and thinking that, I could just keep going. And no, mate, I was deluding myself, because I thought because I was physically training hard, not eating any bad foods. In fact, my vitality age was high because I wasn't eating well, not because I was eating junk foods, because I wasn't eating regularly because of my travel and other stuff. So all I'm trying to support here, to your point, is not to get too deep into that, was to say that, hey, there's a lot that's going on in the world. And so, how can we make small steps and help people to recognize that, we just like we do things to improve our physical fitness or our IQ by learning more around, like you said, studying more because we have to qualify for this next level of standards and degrees that we have to qualify for. We also need to do things around our health and well-being. And that's really important, because that's why I call it financial well-being, man. We need to make sure we've got the financial means to have the dream that we'd like to have.
Yeah.
But what's the use if we don't have the health to enjoy it? And but you never know what's going to happen. So, we need to make smart choices.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's something I wanted to bring up, which was a conversation. Now, I just had an hour conversation with Dr. Adam Fraser yesterday. And one of the things I'm super passionate about is financial advisory, like the mental health of financial advisors, not just their clients, but actually financial advisors. And something that Adam and I have been talking about for a while was this idea that he would study the industry. And so I know for a fact that he's partnered with AIA to spearhead this study, which is super exciting, because we're going to, for the first time, sort of be able to kind of go to Canberra and say, hey, listen, these are the areas that financial planners are struggling with. Potentially we can, and this is how I hope it gets used, at least in some capacity, which is, politicians, can you hold off on forcing even another round of changes? I was hearing from the shadow treasurer that they want to remove all commissions from life insurance, and it's just like one thing after another, and it's creating a lot of stress for financial planners. And it's just super awesome that you guys got behind Adam to be able to handle this study. So thank you.
No, well, Clayton, well done to you for working with Adam on this as well, and to Adam, and he's a great guy. And when it came to us, it's like I've sort of moved into this part of my life now where we've just got to do the right thing and not wait, right? And so, here we are talking about health and wellbeing. It's really important us, we do that for our team, and our people, our family. But also, when we look at the important and critical role that financial advisors that you and I have just talked about in helping Australians get advice so that they can protect them and their families and then live a good life plays, right? The trusted relationship they have. We need to make sure we're supporting our financial advisors. I've had so many financial advisors calling me concerned about their clients during COVID and what they can do to keep their cover or in the instance of a claim. And then so many advisors talking to me about how concerning it has been for them personally, for them, and they're worried about you know what, it's funny, they put themselves not on the top of that list, their clients, their teams, their staff, their families, with the business disruption that they're going through. And I've been very clear, I was on the AFA panel on this, please, anyone listening, any policymaker, please leave LIF alone.
Totally.
Have a look at LIF, but don't touch the remuneration components. We've just adjusted. Find something else. And with the education standards and the compliance obligations, we've lost 2,000 advisors from the financial services industry, around that or more, in the last 12 months. So what we've got to do is a little bit like what I was saying before, Clayton. I need to look after my health and at least try and do some little things to improve that if I want to continue to serve others, my family and others. Similarly, if we need to support our financial advisors so that they can be well, so that they can continue to play that important role in society. So this was about, the advisor voice that Dr. Adam Fraser and yourself and others are talking about is, understanding the current state of mental health and wellbeing of financial advisors, the learning habits and attitudes associated with those advisors who are currently experiencing positive mental health, well-being, and how they're responding to that industry change, so we can give those tools and tips to others, and then understanding the mindsets and behaviours involving with those advisors that may not be doing as well, and what support they need. And you're right. So that is so that we can communicate that to make change and action to support advisors who need it, and so that they can help and learn from each other, and to share that with key decision makers, so they can understand the true impact of what's going on here. Because no one's doing anything intentionally on that front, but they need to, and the data, we talked about the head and the heart. We may know something intuitively, but by having the data as well will be a really important fact point to be able, and proof point to be able to substantiate that. So I'm hoping all advisors get on and whether it's to share, the positive things that they're doing to get through, or whether it's because they're struggling, so that we can get that information out there.
100%. Yeah. So Adam actually presented at our mid-year XY event tour, and during that time we were sort of talking about how he'd been doing this in other industries, and he said, one of the more difficult parts is to find, like 50 people that are willing to fill out diaries multiple times a day to send them away to the university. And I said, give me the chance. And he said, okay, cool. So we sent it out to our XY Plus members. And I think within a day or two, we had, the whole thing filled up and ready to contribute, because this thing's super, I don't know why I feel insanely passionate about this, but the way that I explained it to Adam was, I think there was two suicides that have occurred in the XY community that I'm aware of, right? And so now, even though I didn't know these individuals, it falls under my umbrella of responsibility, just even to an extent that it's enough for me to want to do whatever we can to make sure that the chances of that happening is reduced. And I was actually having another podcast the other day, and the concept of this changes to the LIF came up. And I said, look, the people that create the policies, it's kind of like financial services is much more than just a stepping stone for your career. Unfortunately, we've arrived at a time where there's been so much change heaped upon financial planners that now you can almost specify a body count to any future changes you want to do. It's like, okay, well, what changes do you want to include? Because this is the result that's already occurred. And if you keep pushing it in this direction, you think there's going to be a positive outcome, but I promise you that the reaction that the market's going to give you is not going to be a positive one. And I just wish that there was a way. And so this study for me is the first thing that's come up that for me says this is the way that we can go to policy makers and say, hey, these are the advisors that are doing well, and this is what they look like, and this is what other advisors should be doing to be well. But these are the advisors that aren't doing well, and this is why. And if you keep pushing on the bad points, you're going to get less over here and more over here. And so, yeah, it's so awesome to have Adam running this and then AIA funding. I wanted to bring this up because it's it's a great thing to get behind.
Well, thank you, Clayton. And I'm glad that the XY crew are on board and helping to, form that important data set. But, and also we've got to advocate. You touched on a couple of things. Leadership is a privilege and a responsibility, man. And we've got to step into that, right? It's not an authority. It's not some game. It's not some position you just get to have fun with in a title. It's actually a privilege and a responsibility. We're all leaders, and it's about the impact we can have. And that's what leadership is. And so it's about having impact. And, once something comes into your knowledge, I find it difficult for those who can just sort of shut it off and say, well, that's not my responsibility, because we've all got a privileged position to be able to try and do something with our means. So it's not always about doing big things. It's even just the little things. But I just want to break the cycle of going, well, let's do a post review of that situation. Imagine if we did something three years ago. Imagine if we did that. So I don't know if everything we do these days is the right thing or not, but I'd rather do something. Now, I'm not talking about this research here because this is the right thing to do. Yeah. But, we've got to do more and be far more nimble and agile in the areas that matter rather than, constantly reflecting on, well, let's have a look at this in retrospect and what could we have done better at the time?
Yeah,
because that's really bugging me right now. We talk about being agile and nimble, and that's how we do our projects and programs. But I actually think we need to be a lot more, not to use those buzz terms, but we just need to be a lot more agile and nimble to do things where it's the right thing to do.
It's a very good way of putting it. XY has actually over the years done quite a bit with AIA. Believe it or not, AIA was actually one of the XY podcast's first ever sponsor. You guys a fair few years ago sponsored a whole year of the podcast, and I get to catch up with Elise every now and again. Yeah, she's fantastic part of your team, and send her a report. And it's like, hey, even from all those years ago, these are still getting downloaded. So it's super cool to see AIA, as at least putting content out there and supporting things that does drive the positive evolution of financial advice, which is what we've been aiming to do for a long time. And I think Vitality is a great example of that. And actually, was there anything in your sleep that was picked up in the Vitality app, or was that something different?
Yeah, no. So my Vitality app, we brought on sleep as a core component of the program, probably 18 months, 2 years ago. Now in the last 12 months, and we ran an extra hour of sleep campaign, to really try and drive it because of the benefits it had. But so now I can track my sleep and I see my points in my sleep and I see bits. And so, it's interesting. Actually, my sleep levels haven't been in the last 6 weeks, 4 weeks of the stage 2 lockdown, were not as good.
Oh. Do you mean for yourself or collectively?
Oh, sorry. I thought. Sorry, this is for mine personally. Tracking. Yes. Mine personally. Yes. So, and I must admit, the second stage was because we were really and what I associated that was the constant concern of not hitting the goals that the Premier had said and not coming out. Going back to stage 2, I rallied. Dug deep, got everyone together, and we came. And then there's this sort of roller coaster of not hitting the target started to impact, and I started getting a lot more concerned for the team and society and the state. And so, you can track it, and it's actually quite interesting to see through your sleep patterns, how you're feeling. And so, what that then enabled me to do was just sort of, identify what was bothering me. and make that change.
Yeah, it's in terms of systemic, industry issues, the insurance industry as a whole, what has been happening from a top-down regulatory view? It must be so bizarre to be at, you're a private company, but you're still completely at the whims of policymakers as well. And that's, and it's not just AIA, it's Zurich and it's TAL and it's everyone, right? And it must be very difficult, I would imagine, to balance advisors, clients, regulatory staff. It's definitely a challenge, but I think coming up with, you mentioned that you've been in financial services your whole career, did you start in like underwriting or something, or?
Mate, you might not be able to see this, and others won't, obviously, because we're on a podcast. But see that blue sign there?
Yes.
That says Colonial Mutual Life Assurance Society, established 1873.
Yes.
I started out at Colonial and was blessed when I was at uni to get a job there, and my job was to enter the mail into the system, so that when someone rang up the call centre back then, it's a long time ago, I know, I might look a bit younger, but it's a long time ago, that was the way to make sure that if a customer called in, our call centre back then could let them know whether we'd received documents for their claim.
Oh, wow.
So my job, which I loved, was to get in and log hundreds of bits of mail into the system, so that if someone called in, they could call up. And mate, that was how I started my career in financial services, and then I moved into being I just loved being part of a team. You know what? I just loved being part of a team that had goals every week that it set for itself. How many we needed to get through, how many claims we needed to process, how many change of addresses, all that stuff. And so my job, I just said, okay, great. I'm going to become the quickest and best at logging the mail in, so that I could then free up time in the day to help my team members with learning how to process the claims and the other stuff.
Wow.
And I was just really, it was always about the team and, how we could deliver better customer service and wins even back then. And so then I ended up just sort of becoming the team leader pretty quickly, and then managing the Colonial Master Fund new business, and then transitioned to CBA bought Colonial and moved it up to Sydney, but I wanted to get back to Melbourne because I love my AFL and playing footy on the weekend. And but your point is, I just started, I guess why I'm saying that, Adam, is, and then guess what? And now I'm part of an organisation where we actually bought Colonial Common Shore.
How funny is that? A full circle.
Full circle. Yeah, but whether it was when I was at Australian Super or Navigator, I've just really loved being part of working in organisations where we could build a compelling vision and dream, and then working together as a team to deliver it. And that was the same at Australian Super. We had the dream of creating the most amazing superannuation fund for all Australians to have that retirement dream. So it doesn't. It's this long story short. But mate, I've always just said, whatever job you do, give it your best, and that is the first step to anything else happening. So many people get fixated on their career. But I've worked with financial advisors right throughout my career, just to bring it back to financial advice, and seeing the phenomenal work that they've done over my whole career to help Australians, and as I said, across a range of financial services. And now, even we actually deliver financial wellbeing around their clients' health and wellbeing, along with their financials. So that's pretty cool.
Mate, that is. Look, Damien, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you finding the time and sharing and supporting, especially with the with Adam's research. I can't thank you enough there. I think that's going to be super important in terms of helping important decisions for the industry as a whole. And I am involved, and I will be doing whatever I can to make sure that is used as much as possible. And I think it's something tangible that we'll be able to take to Canberra. But obviously, all the success with Vitality and everything you're doing over there, and mate, leading from the front in terms of focusing on your health and well-being and even sleep. That's something that I probably should focus on more, considering I am a new parent now, and those hours somehow slip by. I just wanted to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Clayton, thank you for having me, mate, and a big call out again, and shout out to Roxy and the whole team. And congratulations, full admiration and respect for what you do, and the whole financial advice community, and also for the podcast, man. You are making a difference, and it's what matters. So thank you, and look forward to continuing to partner with you and do great things.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Bye.